Salute, Nick family. My name is Stephanie from the Queen's Court,
And I'm Tony Crow from Knicks and Bruises.
and this is the crossover. I am your host today. We decided we're going to take turns hosting the show. So when you hear my music, I'm the host. When you see Tony's intro, he's the host. But it's all good. We all fan. We'll be going back and forth with each other. We got a lot to talk about today and a little bit of time to do it. So I like to take the best topics and wait to the end to talk about it. But today we decided to go with the best topic first. Well, before we even get into that, Tony, how are you? How have things been since we've last did the show?
Well, everything's good. The wins haven't piled up, but the play has continued to be good, and I'm satisfied in that. You know what I mean. I'm not gonna be a Debbie Downer and just be upset about the season. So I'm here for the ride now.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it on the last show. You're very, even though we're losing, you seem to be very encouraged by the Knicks' future. Now, is that because of the young players and how they're playing, because we've been up, in a lot of games that we could have won, and so you just feel like just a tweak here, a tweak there, a little more chemistry, little more chemistry, and we'll be better. What makes you so encouraged despite the losing?
Well, I mean, that's pretty much it. I think overall, I pointed it out last week. Everybody's kind of playing their best ball at this point of the season.
Mhm.
The team is also, I believe, playing their best ball. Hasn't amounted to wins, but excuse me, yeah, it's still encouraging. And I'm gonna be the optimist and say, if we are stuck with this roster, it's not stuck long term. We're talking about stuck for another year, and then guess what? We're in an even better position. But even with that, I think everything is going to be a little bit easier moving forward. Guys that are under contract will be easier to move come next year if we choose to go that route. If we don't, they come off the books after that year. So I'm looking at the bigger picture. I'm not looking at just this year or this year compared to last year. I'm really looking at it compared to where we've been in the past 10, 20, 30 years.
Oh, well, if you're if you're comparing it to the last 10 years, then yeah, despite the dip, yeah, I'm encouraged as well. We looked at the salary cap for next season. I'm not sure how much the Knicks are going to be able to do in the off season. A lot of us want the Knicks to be able to trade these contracts, but the Knicks, other than RJ, most of the Knicks have underperformed. So who are you going to be able to trade, right? And are you going to be able to get equal value when it's a down year for them, right? And I think that's what the Knicks will be working with in the off season. So let's just segue into um, our topic for today. There's players that's coming back next year because the Knicks are not. There's not much they can do as far as the salary is concerned. Contracts are concerned. And we got word today, not from the front office, but I guess from a reliable source, that it looks like Tibbs will be returning next season. And to the chagrin of a lot of the fans. So, fans, I'm interested in your takes. Please, we will highlight them. Let us know how you feel about the fact that Tibbs may be returning. And what's your thoughts?
Absolutely, absolutely. Shout out to the chat for sure.
Definitely.
Let me highlight some people out here. We got Greenhouse in the building. Appreciate you, Geraldine. Always here. Thank you,
Always appreciate you.
Maximus. We got Billy Allen. We got Victor Thompson, or Knicks Worldwide. IQJ. Appreciate all you guys. Dwayne, Freddie. Um, Yeah, we're gonna get a poll up in there. Let you guys answer. Do you think it was a good decision bringing Tibbs back? I for one definitely agree with the decision. I was one that said the front office needed to come out and kind of reassure him that he was okay. And I said this before the big losing streak, the 3-17 stretch, and I just thought it brings a sense of stability, and retaining him does that as well. You know, we've been paying multiple coaches for 1 year at or for multiple years at a time, and I think that needs to stop. Um, you made your bed, lay in it. You could look at it that way. You could look at it a bunch of different ways, but I think you can't just keep rotating coaches out after a year or two of you know, well, in this case, one bad year. You know, let's see who he really is after highs and lows. Um,
Yeah,
we got
yeah. Oh, I was just
Jericho.
highlighting so
Okay,
while you were
okay, okay.
talking.
You good?
Um, yeah, I agree. Listen, I don't think was Tibbs' best season by any stretch, right? Um, I don't. There's some things he did that I would not have done if I was in his position. Things that from the outside looking in, I disagreed with. But that being said, I'm not an NBA head coach. He's definitely working from a different mindset than I am. He understands all of the factors that go into these decisions. I don't. So there was a lot of decisions he made or didn't make that were perplexing to me. And so I definitely get it. But give this guy his players, give him his coaching staff, and we'll talk more about that. And let's see what he can do. Don't give him players that don't fit his system. You know, and then when it doesn't work out, um, now he's fired. Right? That's my take on it. Does he need to get better next year? He does. And I think the main thing the fan base and Tibbs we disagreed on was his handling of the young players. But that's just our request. That's just something we wanted to see. I don't see firing a coach because he didn't play young guys. I think you fire him because of the losing record. You fire him because you think that he could have done better with this cast of characters and he didn't, right? For me, I felt like we were more upset with him not playing the young guys than we were with the fact that we were losing, you know? So um, let's see, um, what happens next year. One good year, one bad year, and let's see what happens. I think firing Tibbs after coming off last year, the optics is not good. I don't think people would understand it. It'll be that narrative, same old Knicks. It'll be hard to find a coach to come here. If you get an experienced coach, you're going to have to overpay because they're going to know from the start there's no job security there. Or you're going to wind up getting a young coach who wants to prove himself, right? So let's see what happens. But what are the fans saying? And we got 56 in the poll, 96 people watching. If you have access to the poll, please vote. We'll talk about that. But what are the fans saying, Tony? The chat, I should say. Oh, I can't hear you.
Me.
Yeah.
Facts Queen, give the ingredients, give him the ingredients so he can cook. Oh, that's from Walter White. And you know, we're gonna get into that. Like, you can only cook with the ingredients you have, and then, you know, if somebody's in charge of giving the ingredients, they they gotta deal with how the food tastes, you know, after it's cooked. So but then we got a lot of people that, you know, just don't agree, and feel like Tibbs is not the guy. I should have highlighted this on the way. Excuse me, but I mean, you know, some people agree, some people don't. You can't have Tibbs coaching and young players trying to develop. He's just too much of a veteran led coach. And I mean, I hear what you're saying, but again, we're one of the youngest teams in the league. So whether he wants to go all veterans or not, he doesn't have a choice. We have young guys on this team. We've seen young guys play on this team. We've talked about that in the past. He has to, again, back to the ingredients. He has to use what is at his disposal, and I think personally he's done a fine job. I love the accountability for these young guys because I think in the long run it, it kind of makes them learn faster or learn the right way, learn to stay ready. Let's see who else we got in here. We got another one for Tibbs, Harlem CEO, keep Tibbs, but he has to make better real time adjustments. And that's
That is the main issue I have with Tibbs. I not the young people, not too much, but that is one of the main issues I have with him.
and it's fair critique. You know what I mean? That's what I like to see from our chat and even other chats because I frequent some other channels. If you have fair critique, is no it's no argument for me, even if I don't agree with it. But some of the far out and far fetched takes, that's where it gets a little sketchy sketchy for me. It's like make your point and we can have a dialogue back and forth about it. For some reason I don't have access to the poll. Do you?
I have access to the poll so
Well,
far. 71 72 um, members of the chat have voted, and wow, right decision to keep Tibbs for next season. This is surprising. 64% says yes and 37% say no, or now 63% says yes and 37% says no. I have a question for the chat, and as the weeks go on, we'll have the phone lines open. Go ahead. You want to read that one?
IQJ, I would bet my money Tibbs would tell himself this season didn't go as planned and wish some things went different. Clear as day, many egos played a role in the way the season played out. I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. Well, and that's one thing that I like about this coming out that they're gonna retain him because I think firing him or throwing him under bus is literally that. It's not taking accountability for your own decisions and your own actions. And when I say that, I'm referring to the front office. You
Yeah,
know, they
yeah,
they they got to come out and say we made a mistake in the Kimber move. Whether it's publicly saying it or just moving on from it, I think that says it in itself. But yeah, there's enough blame to go around 100%. I couldn't agree more. IQJ.
yeah. And not just, I mean, listen, I'm not making excuses for Tibbs. Tibbs played his part in the way this season is. It's possible that he could have made some adjustments down the line that could have got us a few more wins, no doubt about it. But to your point and to IQJ's point, there's enough blame to go around. We were without Rose since December. We were without Noel for most of the season. Remember, it took Mitch with the injury and with the weight gain. It took him some time. Um, Randall is nowhere close to the consistent Randall that we saw last season. We signed Kemba, and he's not even on the team right now. And we had to play IQ out of position, had to play Burks out of position. And again, there's no excuses, but the point I'm trying to make is you can't just hold one person accountable when there were so many things that went wrong. The things that we're complaining about with Tibbs was the same thing he did last season, but people were complaining, don't get me wrong, but nobody was calling for him to be fired. Lack of adjustments was the same last season. Not playing the young people was the same last season, but we were winning. People lived with it. Now that
Hmm.
we're losing for reasons much more than Tibbs, he's a part of it. Everybody is just calling for his head, and we're not looking at all of the reasons why this team has basically underperformed. Um, any other comments from the chat before I ask the chat a question?
You could go you could go right into your question for the chat. I'm gonna pull one up, but it's really just a highlight. So
Yeah. Um, I wish we had the phone lines up.
I
I
I
guess
agree.
I guess there's a difference between disagreeing with Tibbs and feeling like he's not the coach for this team. I definitely get those who feel that way. But I guess what I'm having a hard time with is the venom and the assurity that he is not a good coach, as if we're behind the scenes and we know what it means to be an NBA coach, that we know all the factors that go into being an NBA coach, the factors that go into deciding who's going to play, who's like we don't have
Hmm.
half of the factors that Tibbs is working with in his decision making process. I guess what I want to know from the fan base, how can we be so sure he's making the wrong decisions? Because we don't agree with them. Like, how can we be so sure? And I say this because when I coached, I'm making decisions that are consistent with my thought process at the time, right? Nobody else other than my assistant coaches are privy to those factors. And so after the game, my friends would watch the game and they would say, "What? Why did you play so and so? Why did you make this decision? Why did you make that decision?" And then once I explained to them, they would say, "All right, it makes sense why you would make that decision." You know, they working from a different framework. So I guess for the chat, my question is, do we want to fire Tibbs because of his record? Do we want to fire Tibbs because of his lack of adjustment? Or do we want to fire Tibbs because he's not doing what we think he should be doing when we're working with half of the factors that he's working in? I've always wanted to ask the chat. I wish the phone was up so people could call in and give me their reasons for it. But if you can't, we can't call in. Just put it in the chat. We'll try to highlight exactly why you wanted Tibbs fired, or exactly why you're disappointed that he's um, coming back.
Yep. We'll give a couple of minutes before we get to that, just so we can catch up with the YouTube
Yeah.
stream.
Can I highlight some?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Um, Janaldi Kilmanik. I hope I said that right. Terrible decision.
And we're gonna
Um,
look for your explanation.
we'll look for you. Yes, please tell us why. Geraldine MacGyver, shout out to you, Geraldine, rocking with MBK from the beginning. As long as Tibbs is here, no superstars are gonna come here. Why do you think that, Geraldine? Let us know that um, as well. Tibbs is easily the worst manager in the league. Of course, the Knicks will keep him. It's the Knicks.
Mm.
Why do you think
And
he's the worst? Now, I will
I,
say, go ahead.
I want to respond to Geraldine,
Mhm.
in saying that, because I mean there's no real evidence of it, but the truth of the matter is, the facts are, we've had how many coaches in the past 10 years, and none of them have brought anybody here. If you want to be honest, you know what I mean. Like, biggest acquisition was back with Carmelo and which wasn't free agency, but Amari. So when you look at it, to say as long as Tibbs is here, Tibbs wasn't here, and it wasn't anything different. But I can truly say in my heart of hearts that he's the best coach we've had since, arguably, Woodson, if you want to go there. But if you don't agree, if you skip Woodson, then you got to go back even further. And then where we stopping at? Jeff Van Gundy? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Pat
So,
Riley.
Pat Riley. So, I mean, appreciate this guy, especially, just think about the coaches we've been through, and then see if your feelings for Tibbs are the same. That's what my challenge to the people who don't want Tibbs here.
Yeah. I mean, what I will add to that is there have been over 340 some odd coaches who's coached at least one game in the NBA. And Tibbs is in the top 50 in terms of his winning percentage at 57%. So he's won 50% of the games that he's coached, including all of the losses he's racked up this year. So he's not a terrible coach. You could say he's having a bad season, but he's not a terrible coach at all. And his winning percentage is better than any other coach we've had until, like Tony said, you go back to Pat Riley, Jeff Van Gundy, um, and what have you. So his winning percentage is there. And you'll talk about when I looked at those who were in the top. Steve Kerr winning percentage really high. He got Klay Thompson, Steph Curry. Who else is in? Nick Nurse, who had Kawhi Leonard. All of the ones that's in the top pop had all-star, superstar players. We haven't had that, right? So all of those coaches that we're talking about are so successful. Spo had LeBron James and Dwayne Wade. Um, Doc Rivers was also up there in terms of winning percentage. Look at the players he had. Embiid, now Harden. He had who else he had? Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. So all of those guys that's up there in winning percentage, those coaches, they had superstars. You know, Tibbs had Derrick Rose, who was injury prone, and he was still 57% of his wins. So again, I'm not saying he had a great season. He did not, but he's not a bum, and I just want to see, if he has his players and one or two more coaching staff, that he's worked with. Let's see what he can do. You wanted to highlight something, Tony? Oh, I can't hear you.
Sorry, there's dogs out in the backyard. Um, I was seeing if the comment came in its entirety. No, we don't. We do not. But we are not in the locker room, nor are we in team meetings. I go by what I see on the court. How many times have you seen him interact with his assistant coaches? I don't care who he plays. One. I mean,
Yeah. I mean, how many coaches run back to their assistant coaches though? Right? Some coaches do. Some coaches
or
get everything they get from their assistant coaches before the
beh-
game, and then they take it from there. So he's not the only one.
yeah, behind the scenes and in
Oh, that was
practice.
one. Here's number two. I think she had
Oh, oh,
another
okay.
another
Go
comment.
go ahead.
Let me see if I could find it. It
Okay, I got it.
started with two.
There it
Yeah, it
goes.
is.
Two, Tibbs doesn't put his players in the right position to succeed. To me, he is heavy ISO coach. He coaches the same way he did in Chicago. He hasn't won anything. Fair assessment. He hasn't. I mean, not as a head coach, he hasn't. And
As
you
an
can
assistant
argue,
coach.
you can argue, if not for Rose's injury, he may have.
Right. But
Um,
let me say this. How many did Spo win before Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, and Shaq came there? How much did Pop win before Duncan and David Robinson got there? You understand what I'm saying? You need dogs, you need superstar players to win in this league. So there's more coaches who haven't won than have won. And I don't think you could put that on a coach if they haven't had superstar players. Number two, Tibbs preaches all the time, move the ball. The game will tell you what to do. I don't The Knicks are the ones, as much as he says, move the ball, move the ball, move your body. You hear him screaming that on the sidelines. Randall is an ISO heavy person. He's a ball stopper. So as much as you say it, when he gets the ball, it's gonna stop. Now, again, I'm not saying Tibbs has had his best season by any stretch, but him not winning, I think that's not fair because he hasn't had the players. And him being an ISO coach, I think that's more on the players not moving the ball because he preaches that all the time.
yeah, I agree. Let me see who else we got here. Is Mark Jackson still in the NBA doghouse?
I think he is.
He's not coaching, so I agree. I think he is as well. Excuse me. Um, I don't know if you want to keep down this Tibbs rabbit hole. I'm gonna highlight a few more comments. There we go. There we go.
They do play the most young players. No, you look at any other team, they're not playing as many young players as the Knicks are playing. They definitely not playing the last person on the bench like McBride. So the Knicks, everybody talks about that the Knicks are vet heavy. Fournier and all of these are young vets, right? Fournier, Randall, Burks. After that, we're talking about players. Oh, and Taj. After that, you're talking about players who have been in the league 1 to 4 years. So he's right. They play the most young players in the league. He's not playing them as many minutes as we would like, but we don't count. I gotta be honest. We want to get rid of a coach because he's not doing what we want him to do. Come on. But that's a good question because we wanted to talk a little bit about right. All right, let's get to the vote. Ooh, it's closing, and then we'll move on to Sims. What do you think? I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, I keep muting because these dogs. I don't know. Nobody I know has dogs, and there's dogs in the yard.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, we can definitely get into the Sims things. Would you say
I
the
want to
chat
do the
was at right
poll.
now? The
So
poll.
we have 144 votes. Appreciate you guys for rocking with us. Hit that like button for sure. Right decision to keep Tibbs for next season. We'll keep it rolling to the end of the show. But right now, 56% says yes, 44% says no. So
It's
it's
getting
closing the
close.
gap. It was like 60 something to 30
It's
something
getting close.
before. Appreciate you. And I forgot who it was in the chat. Charmboy72 Abel says, Sister, we agree to disagree. Hey, that's what this is all about. We agree to disagree, but we don't have to be disagreeable. And that's what keeps the love going, right? Um, all right. Anyway, let's move on to Sims. I wanted to talk a bit about him. I call it the cutting room floor. So both Tony and I have shows, and a lot of times we don't get to talk about everything we have down for that show. So it just doesn't make the cut. And I wanted to talk about Sims on the Queen's Court, and it just didn't make the cut. Was there someone you wanted to talk something you wanted to talk about?
I'm gonna let you take the lead specifically on Sims
Hmm.
and go right ahead. And that's
Okay.
basically because I got the game on. I still didn't fully watch that Nets game.
Okay.
So any opinion I have is gonna be excluding his last game.
Right.
So
I had his stats somewhere. Anyway, Sims over the last week, I had his stats. I think it was like I want to say like less than 5 points, like maybe 10 rebounds a game, like half a block or something like that. Not eye popping numbers, if you will, but I just wanted to highlight how he played in the New Jersey game. He played most of that fourth quarter. What
Brooklyn, but
happened? Brooklyn. What did I say?
New Jersey. It's all
Oh,
right.
Brooklyn.
I love to hear it. I love to hear it.
Right, right, right. Um, he played most of the Brooklyn game, and I thought Mitch might have been hurt. And come to find out, he wasn't hurt. I think he played most of it except for like a minute or even less than a minute in that fourth quarter. And Mitch
Mhm.
wasn't hurt. That was by choice, right? So I think the reason was Sims has this ability, like he was going all the way out to almost the half court line to trap KD, right? And then recovering back in the key to his person. Now, KD is smart, not like Randall, who's going to force it. So, what KD does is he just passes it and he
Repositions.
cuts and repositions and gets it back. And that puts a lot of pressure on the defense. That's something we should learn how to do. But Sims is able to do that. His lateral quickness is amazing. He may not be a shot blocker per se, but his lateral quickness is amazing. So, chat, I know some people say they think he's better than Mitchell Robinson. Um, I'm interested in the chat. Your thoughts on that? I don't think so. Um, but his lateral quickness is amazing. And Tony, I'm just interested in your thoughts on Sims this past week or
So,
overall.
funny enough, I did get to see the last 5 minutes of the game
Hmm.
from work, and so I did see that. And not only was he doing a great job with the initial double team to get the ball out of Katie's hand, but I think the rotations were pretty solid for the team. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so that's definitely encouraging in that aspect. Um, Stellar rebounding. I really love that from him.
Hmm.
Like he can give you 10 in very limited minutes.
Hmm.
I'm very interested to see when he starts having that conditioning and even the opportunity to see where he could do what he could do with like a 25-minute game, 30-minute game. So
Hmm.
so that's gonna be great. As far as him better than Mitch, I don't think so. Not at this point, but would you expect that from a rookie? I don't believe so. I think he's gonna have somewhat of the same or a similar learning curve that Mitch had, but I think he's gonna have. Or let me rephrase that. I think he's gonna have less of a learning curve than Mitch has. I think
Hmm.
because he played those 4 years, 3 4 years in college. I think he's a little bit more seasoned. He's not as raw as Mitch was. So long term, I love him. I think we have a long term at the very least backup center. Um, but I am interested in knowing what we can do or what the Knicks' thoughts of him are. Is he a insurance policy? Is he a replacement? These are questions that come up as of late because we haven't extended Mitch at this point.
Do you think he has the ability? So I think that I don't think his ceiling is as high as Mitch. So
Mm-mm.
I think even 4 years from now, 5 years from now, unless Mitch doesn't reach his ceiling, I don't see Sims ever being better than Mitch if if Mitch continues on this same trajectory. Okay. Um, but do you agree with that, or do you think that it's a possibility that he could eventually surpass Mitch?
I don't think he'll surpass him, but I think it's crazy because the Knicks have been playing with Mitch for 4 years, right?
Hmm.
I think some of these guys, I think he could come in and fill the same role that a Mitch can do. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Without the potential upside down the road.
Mm.
But as of like now, I think we, and I hate to say this because Mitch is my guy, but I think he could replace Mitch and give the same production that Mitch is giving now throughout his throughout his career. I think
Hmm.
with Mitch, I'm banking on improvement. I'm banking on that defense. Like that's one thing that I think Sims is lacking more so because of his size than anything else. But I think he's gonna pick up on things a lot faster than Mitch has.
I don't know. He
I
might be
think
able
it,
to. Go
I
ahead.
think he'll reach his ceiling first.
Right.
Eh,
Yes. Yes. And I think he may give us the same. He could give us the same statistical numbers Mitch can, but I don't know if he will be as disruptive defensively as Mitch has the potential to be, if that makes sense. I think he'll play
Agreed.
better than Mitch on the perimeter. Um, but Mitch, his offensive rebound, and that changes the game for us. That puts a lot of pressure on the defense, and his shot blocking, also his rim protection. So at the end of the game, they can wind up with the same stats, but if you watch the game, you I think Mitch is going to have a bigger impact defensively. He has the potential to be an elite defender. Um, but I'm interested in the chat. Um, Go ahead. What they have to say.
I was trying to get Tricky Nicky, but I'll get him next. Give Sims more minutes. Once he has the confidence, he's gonna be a pretty good player. I agree about the confidence, but one thing that I am concerned about is even with the confidence, is he? is the confidence going to convert to him asserting himself in I'll say offensively. You know what I mean? Like, because offensively, I don't really know what he's capable of. I don't know if he's able to shoot. The one knock, the big knock, I guess, right now is his free throw shooting. And if we're basing his shooting off of free throw shooting, then he's got a long way to go. So it definitely gets me nervous there. Um, you can go ahead and respond while I find Tricky Nicky.
Oh, I started. So it's in the star column. I'll show it.
Okay, yep, there it is. Mitch gets better footwork, and it's not even a comparison. I mean,
Mitch
you
got
can
better. You
argue.
think Mitch got better footwork? Like I don't. What Sims was able to do in that Brooklyn Nets game, I don't think Mitch could do.
Mm.
You think he could?
Elaborate, because I like I said,
I don't
like
think. I
I'm
don't
still in the
think.
second end of the second.
Yeah, I don't think Mitch could run out to half court, double team KD without
KD
fouling,
without
mirror
fouling.
him, both of those mirror, and then get back to his guy. The ground that he covers, his footwork. I just don't see Mitch being able to do that. But Mitch brings something different. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's better than Mitch, but he just brings something Mitch doesn't. And even if he's not our starting center, if he's our backup center, we're in a good place, I think.
I agree with that 100%. Oh, where we at here? We got Antonio Jenkins. Every decent center in the NBA abuses Mitch. I actually disagree. Unless you're talking about his tenure, his 4 years. Yeah, he's been abused by every decent center in his 4 years. I think this year is the one year where he's actually had some really good games against some of the best centers. So he's trending up. He's definitely trending up.
Yeah, let me put this one up. Okay, go
All right,
ahead, finish. No, no, go ahead.
who's this? Chick George. Mitch has has been inconsistent with his motivation due to lack of ball movement. That's a fair observation. I think he's hinted at it as well.
I don't think
Um,
it's if impacted his motivation though. He still plays hard to me.
I think he's played harder because of it. I think that might drive his offensive rebound stretch that he's been in as of late. That might, hey, this is how I gotta get my points. So now I gotta go get them. You
Right.
know what I mean? Because I don't know where they're coming from otherwise.
Let me read this for only the old heads gonna understand this one. Kerry Cox, shout out you, another one been rocking with us. There are so many young fans here, but I see Jericho Sims as a West Unseld type of player, maybe a
Mm.
Truck Robinson. That is a blast from the past player if he develops a low post game. And those guys were just undersized, but they Buck Williams too, but Buck Williams had a shot though. These guys were just undersized, but just rebounding hounds.
Absolutely, Buck Williams.
Another blast, right?
That's another one. But you gotta love those old school guys because they were consistent. You know what I mean? Like that was an era in which you couldn't leave one of those bigs open 14 feet, 12
Mm,
feet. You know what I mean? Like they would knock it down at the end stages of their career. They was, you know what I mean? Like you could just rely on that. Shout
yeah,
out to them.
yeah, definitely. I I mean, with both Mitch. So I mean, just to your point, we only got a few minutes. You mentioned this in the initial when we initially started talking about Sims was him being an insurance policy if we lose Mitch in free agency. So I'm interested in what the chat has to say. If we lose Mitch in free agency, do you think Sims, if pressed into duty in just his second year, would do okay? Or do you think we got to bring in a veteran center, even if it's on a vet minimum, like a McGee or somebody, so that we can continue to bring Sims along slowly? What's your thoughts on that? And I'm interested in what the chat has to say as well.
Me personally, if I like McGee. I wish we would have signed him
Hmm.
this off season. But if I'm going, if Mitch is gone, I definitely like Sims as a backup or even spotting in at starting. But I
Hmm.
think we gotta pursue at that point. We definitely gotta pursue a more versatile center, um, to come in just to give a kind of change of pace and change of style when we go with different units. I think it'll open up a lot of things for the rest of the guys. So I definitely agree with that. I think it's tough moving forward with both of them.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. And I just want to shout out Sim. Even though this is not about Sims, whenever you want, whatever you want to comment on, we're gonna highlight it. So nothing but Knicks. Sim, the creator of this channel, shout out to you. Did Alan Hahn just call Randall an elite scorer? We'll leave it at that. We don't got time to get into it. But apparently, Alan Hahn called Randall an elite scorer. I will say when he's on, and if he could ever be consistent, then we could start talking about him being an elite scorer. But how inconsistent he is, I don't know if I'm ready to say that. But um, back to Sims. Um,
How about
it,
that comment? T.
what is that?
Williams
What did he say?
minus 10 games if we lose Mitch.
I don't. I would. I don't think. I don't know if I agree with that. So you're saying if we were starting Sims instead of Mitch, I think Sims would be further along, having gotten all those minutes. And I think
I think he's saying next season, no, like no Mitchell Robinson with 10 games worse. At least that's how I took it.
right. Um, we ain't got that many wins. We don't got that many wins as it is. You're gonna take away 10 of them.
That
Uh,
hurts.
I would think that we would find a replacement, and I think that we would need to sign a veteran center at the minimum, maybe, so that we can bring Sims along slowly, and at some point, maybe during the season, he becomes the starting center. But I just
I got,
don't think you could go into the season with just Sims and Taj on your and Noel as I just can't see that.
especially with a non-healthy Noel.
Right.
I got a question for you. What do you think? What do you think is the most important aspect of Sims' game that he would need to work on to become, let's say a starter next year, or just I mean, improve his game, like
Yeah. Yeah.
two or one or two things.
Like somebody said in the chat, I forgot who it was. He needs to get stronger, so that he can finish underneath that. I think we kind of underestimate now seeing Mitch get an offensive rebound and go up and dunk it through traffic, how strong you have to be to do that. So I think he would have to be stronger, um, to be able to rebound in traffic and put those offensive rebounds he does, get up. And if we could just have a center with a little jump shot. I mean, if we could just have a center that can hit a 5 footer or something in the key, I think those two things would be fine.
Yeah, I agree. I actually like his strength. I think his strength is one of his assets right now. One of his
I think he
things
looks
that
stronger than he is, though. He
I,
looks
I
stronger.
I think his strength actually takes guys by surprise though, like
Mm,
opponents. I think they don't think he's as strong as he is, and I mean the rebound. I think with that, I think that's all effort really that separates him because he is 6'10", but like Sim pointed out, he looks a little small against some of the not even the massive centers, just the regular 7 footer 6'11" guy. He still looks noticeably smaller than him. I
mhm,
think his effort is definitely great. I would like to see him develop some type of a post move. Obviously saying knock against Mitch,
mhm.
maybe a jump hook or something like that. And start small, but just a little 10 footer.
Mm-hmm. 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 Well, the Knicks play in 10 minutes. I think tip off is usually around 7:40. So let's get this last poll, last words, and then we out of here. Um, 204 votes. Right decision to keep Tibbs for next season, yes or no? 56% says yes, 44% says no. I didn't even
Mm.
think it would be close. I thought the no's would be around 70%. But at least for those of us in this chat, 56% of us says it was the right decision. Any last words, Tony?
As always, it's a pleasure doing a show with you.
Absolutely.
As always, appreciate you guys in the chat. Keep tuning in. We switching up some things, but we're gonna stay consistent, and that's the most important thing. So
Right.
look out for us next week. Check out Nicks and Bruises. I need some subscribers and some likes. So go over there, go hit that subscribe button. Appreciate you guys. Your blackest time, Queen.
Yeah. Shout out to you, Tony. Like you said, it's always a pleasure to do a show with you, whether it's the crossover, whether it's Nicks and Bruises, no matter what, it's always a pleasure. Shout out to Simeon Russell, um, just for what he's doing here at MBK, giving me an opportunity, on the Queen's Court, supporting the crossover um, as well. If you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit that notification button so you'll be notified when we go on the controversy, the MB A report with Ron and John for still Nick fans. Of course, pregame, postgame, morning suit around with the man himself, Simeon Russell. And we out.
Yeah.
We appreciate you. We'll be back. We'll be back next week.
Post it and
Oh,
yeah.
and post game tonight on MBK. Remember, we play Portland. Hopefully, we get this win, and we'll be here for the post game. All right, we out. Be easy, Nick family.